Good morning, everyone. My name is Amber McKenzie, and I am doing the announcements today. Woohoo! So we've got lots of them, so pay attention. Maybe get your notebooks out, start taking notes, or your calendars. I suggest that. The first one is that our 7-week fall series begins September 8. And so you'll want to sign up today with Al Konigsfeld at the table across from the info desk. Is that right? Oh, Al's right here. Yep. So it's sorry, I just have this information. Fall series, so that's for spirit groups? No.
Well, it's spirit groups and the what we're calling the small group ministry are all together. So we're all doing the same thing this year.
Did everybody hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, he's got a great voice. Thank you, Al. So what's in the way is the book. And sign up today. It's going to be amazing. And please talk to Al if you have more questions. Okay, second, we've got World Day of Prayer, canned food drive, prayer vigil, and labyrinth walk from 2 to 6 p.m. on September 12th. Okay, so that is a Friday, I believe? Thursday. It's a Thursday, September 12th. There is a sign-up sheet in the hallway, so please check that out. It'll be amazing. Third, we've got the queue process. Woohoo! If you have not done the queue process, you need to do that. So the next one is Saturday, September 14th with Dr. Gary and Dr. Jane, right? No. Yes, okay. With Dr. Gary, Dr. Jane. It's to learn to live with nothing and no one against you. And who couldn't use more of that in their lives? There is a form for you to fill out that is located in the back somewhere. An usher will show it to you.
On the pedestals.
On the pedestals. And what you'll do is just put your, name, email, phone, and if you need childcare. So if you have children, there will be free childcare available. So that's a great, there's no reason for you not to do it if you have kids like I do. There's childcare available. And also it's from 8:45 to 4 p.m., give or take that time.
You have to let us know if you want childcare.
Yes, it's on the form, so let them know, and make sure to turn this in at the bookstore. Yes. And pay in advance, $50, correct? Okay, got it right. Next, we've got community member orientation. You'll be hearing a little bit more about this as well, but it is Sunday, September 15th, following the second service. So September 15th is also when we go to 2 services. So make sure to note that in your calendars, that you all have out and ready to go. So you'll want to, if you're not a community member yet, please come to that orientation after services and learn more and take your involvement further. Okay, next we've got the Earth and Spirit Festival featuring Matthew Fox, Saturday, September 28th. That will be here at Unity Spiritual Center. You'll note there is a new issue, I just noticed, of Natural Awakenings. Just noticed it, I don't know. So on page 9, there is a event spotlight highlighting the Spokane Compassion Games, but also highlighting the Earth and Spirit Festival. So you'll find more information there, times, etc. So please check that out and please come. It'll be really fabulous. Matthew Fox that is a hot ticket item. So learn more there. Okay, next we have, I'm sorry, one more thing. There are tables in the hall talking all about the Earth and Spirit Festival. So please sign up and look there for more information. Next, the Prayer of Prayers class with Reverend David will be on Tuesdays at 10 a.m., September 10th through October 29th. It's going to be fabulous. If you were here last week, you heard about his commercial, and I want to do it. So I'm going to try. I'm going to try to do that one. The sign-up is in the hall. Anything else I'm missing?
No, that was perfect.
Okay, good. Do it. Just do it. Okay, next, I already mentioned it, but 2 services resume on September 15th. Make sure to note that. Okay, we want to really highlight this next one. This is Alternatives to Violence Project, AVP. Woo! So there is going to be a class September 13th through the 15th. This is an important class for learning interpersonal conflict resolution skills through a series of step-by-step processes and exercises. I want to do this at some point, and everybody that I know that has done this AVP workshop has It's been hugely transformational. So highly recommend, please talk to Karen Dunmore or Dr. Jane about this, about signing up, getting involved, getting in on the workshop September 13th through the 15th. Okay. Next we have meditation class begins September 18th with Mary Teresa, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. I think you should sign up for that. It's going to be awesome. So it starts September 18th. Sign up in the hall. Okay, is that everything? Did I get it all? Okay, good. I think that's it, everybody.
All right. This was one of those Sundays where we had just a lot of announcements and we didn't know how to do it other than to ask Amber to do it. So this is the center update, typically with Dr. Gary, but today, instead of Dr. Gary, it's the Amber Alert. All right, a new segment. This is a new segment for y'all.
I'm back, everybody. I'm back. Amber Alert. Get ready. Okay. Good morning again. I'm Amber. Okay, quick poll. Please raise your hand if you have been transformed in any way, shape, or form by Unity Spiritual Center. All right, that's good. I think almost everybody raised their hand. That's good. Okay, now raise your hand if Unity Spiritual Center has inspired you in any way, shape, or form to transform the world and inspire people to make a positive difference in the world. Nice. I know, it sounds familiar, doesn't it? That's good. So what this means, based on your answers, is that Unity Spiritual Center we are living our mission of transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. And I think we're pretty excited about that, are we not? Yes. Okay, good answer. As many of you know, we are a rare ministry in the U.S. and the world, in that we are mission-centered, mission-centric. And what this means is that we are a cutting-edge church, or we are among the cutting-edge churches and spiritual centers worldwide dedicated to spiritual growth, community, connection, and real change that starts right here in ourselves. And so the other thing that makes us unique is that this, purpose centers around our mission, as opposed to some sort of central figurehead or minister or leader. That's not where we center. We center around our mission and purpose. And so for me, this has been a powerful concept that I have never experienced in any church I attended, especially the one I grew up in. And what it has done for me is it spurred me to want to take more ownership of my own spiritual life and development, and not do it for someone else, not do it for a leader or someone that's telling me what they think I should do. It's doing it for myself, which for me has been very empowering. And it has also made me want to contribute my time, talents, gifts, whatever I can to making this center thrive even more. And so what does this information have to do with you? Sorry, let's get to the point. I'm glad you asked. If you are not yet a Unity Spiritual Center community member, then I would highly recommend and encourage you to attend our new community member orientation, which is on September 15th at 12:30 p.m. Now, what else is September 15th? Do you remember from my previous announcements? Just check your notes. Two services, correct. So after the second service at 11, we will be having the new member orientation. So Dr. Gary will be leading the orientation, and I will be there as his apprentice, if you will. And I'll be observing and assisting with the orientation so that eventually a team of community members and I can take it over and relieve him of this duty. Yeah. Right? Yeah, this is what he wants. So this shift in duties is really, it perfectly illustrates what a mission-centric ministry does, right? It doesn't need the minister to do everything or to be everything. And so instead of having the same old community member orientation, which is offered by the minister and may or may not be, boring or not, I don't know. No offense, Dr. Gary, no offense. We want to take ownership of that and use our talents and gifts to, jazz it up a little bit, kind of give it some new life. And, because it's a perfect foundation. He's, of course, created. Everything he does is perfectly created as a foundation. But we want to build it up and create something that takes it even a little bit further. And so I'll be asking people for that guidance after we do a couple of these orientations. So anyway, my point is, if you're not a community member yet, please come to that orientation. And then I've got another poll for you guys. Who here is committed to deepening their own spiritual path? Good, love it. It's good to see. And who here is committed to co-creating a community that is dedicated to our mission of transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world? Okay, good. I'm glad to see that. Then I can't wait to see you at the new community member orientation on September 15th at 12:30. And I highly suggest you attend, or else Dr. Gary will hunt you down. He will. Won't you?
I'm going to move into meditation now, starting with the song Sanctuary.
Please join me for a time of inner meditation. And as we do that, we want to make it an outer experience as well. How can we be the change? How can we help to bring forth a kinder, more compassionate world? And we know it begins in the heart. So I invite you to begin to follow your breath as it moves in and out. And with each exhalation, feel yourself settle into your seat. Sink your awareness deep, deep within and feel your aliveness. And as you observe the breath, imagine breathing right into your heart. And bring into your awareness someone that you deeply love. And feel the love and the compassion within your heart begin to rise up. Let it warm your heart. Let it expand throughout your body. Feel it. become a sanctuary for love and compassion to be activated and expressed. And now breathe into your heart and imagine sending that love to your loved one. Feel it radiating from your heart to this beloved soul. Feel your divine connection as you become an expression of divine love. And as your heart opens, as the love within you expands and radiates, now imagine sending that love to someone that you feel neutral about, an acquaintance of some kind, the clerk in the grocery store, and as you do, silently affirm, "May you be well." And now breathe into the heart and allow that compassion to expand even farther as it emanates from within you. And imagine sending it to someone that you find challenging. Feel the avenue opening up for divine love to be expressed through you. And in your mind's eye, bless this person by silently affirming, "May you be well." And now we breathe into the heart and we send it forth to bless all beings. As we enter the silence together. May all beings be well. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be kind to one another. Let's breathe that in. As we give thanks for the opportunity to be the avenue through which divine love is blessing our planet. And we hold this vision of truth, knowing that each one of us is here to make a difference in our world, to be the presence of peace, to be the one who brings kindness and compassion to our world. And for this, we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.
So I've been doing a series. This is a 5-week, five talk series. This is talk number 4 on the 5 principles. And so just take a few moments to do a quick review, and then we'll get into the principle number 4 today, aligning with God. All right, so this is a quiz. Since Amber started with a poll, we'll continue with a quiz. So what is unit when we talk about Unity's foundation principles, we're talking about what we espouse. We're not telling you what to believe. We don't do that in Unity. We're saying this is what we espouse because it holds our attention and awareness on the aim of the spiritual journey. So the first foundation principle, what we espouse in Unity is?
There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God.
That's right. Okay, excellent. There's just God going on, right? So that's the greater reality that we want to affirm. That's what we hold as the context for how we want to embrace our life experience, as if there's just God going on. But what happens when there's an exception to that? Well, there's principle number 2. And what is principle number 2?
See principle number 1.
Okay, well, if there's just God going on, what does that say about us? So, right, we are divine, and so if we're divine, then we need to recognize that our essence is that we are the one, and so for us to kind of really own the truth of us, we have to feel a great sense of worthiness, a great sense of knowing that we're here to make a difference. That God has created us to be unto our own life, the one unto our world, the Christ of God unto our world. And when we recognize that that's the truth of our essence, then the challenge becomes is to reconcile everything that lives unlike that. Do you have some aspect of yourself that is living in some experience other than absolute worthiness? Do you have some sense of not enough, or some sense that you don't measure up, or whatever? So these are the dynamics that we have to reconcile, because they're not the truth of us. So foundation principle number 3 states, therefore, that if we are having a life experience that doesn't look and feel as if there's just God going on, or that we're the one, then principle number 3 tells us what? That's right, we create our own personal reality. How do we do that? With our thoughts. What else? Beliefs. Right, our behaviors and how we feel within ourselves. So there's a dynamic of generating a way of being with what's going on that produces our life experience, or creates our personal reality. And if we don't understand that that's a dynamic that we help to co-create, then we believe as if life happens to us, instead of understanding that we're co-creators with God, creating our life experience. And so now principle number 4 is all about principle number 3, therefore, is the law of mind action. We create our own personal reality. I wanted to get that part out. Now, principle number 4, what we're going to be talking about today, is that we can transform our life experience through spiritual practice. So principle 4 basically states that through prayer and meditation, we can transform our lives. And while it's important for us to recognize that if our life isn't working out the way in which we believe it's supposed to, then we have tools. We can do something to transform our life and therefore our world. And it's important for us to recognize that that's our job, rather than to believe that our life has to look and feel a certain way in order for us to be okay, or feel safe, or feel successful, or feel validated. We need to recognize that we actually can create those inner states ourselves, independent of what's happening in the outer world. And when we recognize that that's what we're capable of, then all the power is ours. There doesn't exist any power over us save that which we give. And as we recognize this, then the focus becomes what spiritual practices accelerate our experience of this reality called there's just God going on. And so our spiritual practice doesn't work with changing the outer, but changing what? Changing our own inner state, our own process of how how our mind generates our personal reality. We change the mechanism by virtue of how we are thinking and feeling and believing and being with what we're having. And so as we think about spiritual practice, and this is all I wanted to get to this point and make this point because it takes us through the rest of the talk. And that is that we need to reconcile this reality that 95% of our behaviors arise from this dimension of ourself that is unconscious. And if that's the case, then much of what is our life experience happens as a reflection of that years of conditioning that have become our unconscious self that generates a significant portion of our personal reality. And so part of the journey of waking up, part of the journey of transforming our lives is to recognize what we have to do in order to override this phenomenon. And so it could be said that this dimension of us that is unconscious is what could be described, aka the autopilot. Are you familiar with the autopilot? Have you ever done something automatically and didn't even have any sense of the outer experience, but come to realize that you've done all of these things and didn't even give it a second thought? I have this experience all the time when I'm driving. Have you ever been driving and not even paying attention to where you're going and had all of these thoughts come through your head? And I mean, imagine being operating under this autopilot.
And his wife catching that man taking an apparent cat nap, arms crossed, as the vehicle drives down I-5 at 70 miles an hour.
It was scary to see, to think that, okay, so the guy 18 inches on my passenger side is sound asleep.
Click does make an interesting point. If the autopilot was on here, the technology works. That car maintained its speed, it never swerved or drifted, but it is still a dangerous incident, and also it is illegal to fall asleep at the wheel.
Absolutely.
I'll get wrecked if you do.
Yeah, maybe so. So the autopilot is a phenomenon of a part of our mind-body process. In other words, our brain works towards maximum efficiency, and it could do things much better if we stay asleep. In other words, it becomes problematic when we wake up, when we actually want to decide to do things much different than our programming or our conditioning. And so there's a part of our mind-body process that keeps us in the habitual way in which we have created our life experience. And to the degree that we want to change or transform our life, we have to change this subconscious program if we are to have a different outer life experience, because 95% of our decisions or behaviors arise from this unconscious dimension of ourself that we can call the autopilot. Now, autopilots are really a great invention, and it's neat that they're autopilots for airplanes, for instance, because piloting an airplane is a complex process, and to the degree that you can eliminate some of the routine tasks is the degree that you can pay attention to navigation and things of this nature. But when we're on automatic pilot, when we're living in the dynamic of living in the context of how our life is unto us, and therefore living in the experience of stress and living by the hormones of stress, then that creates a challenge for us to transform. It could be said that it's very difficult to transform our life or to override the automatic pilot if we are not capable of really understanding the mechanism that we have to address, and that is settling our nervous system. So part of understanding the dynamics that have to take place that recondition our mind to a different way of being with our life experience has to do with understanding the different dynamics of how our brain and how our neurology and how psychology work. And so the psychologist Daniel Kahneman has developed a way of understanding how the brain has a hierarchical approach to how it manages its dynamic of making us healthy and safe. So system one is called the autopilot. And it's a part of our brain that's reflexive, reactive, and it happens very quick. And it works to control and make sure it manages outer circumstances. But here's the thing, in autopilot there is no self-awareness. So when you are on autopilot, you cannot see how you're being with what you're having. You're just relating from this place of conditioned self. A program is running us when we're in automatic pilot. And so we have to override this circuitry if we're to have a different life experience. So if we understand the neurological dynamic of what we have to do in order to settle the autopilot, shut down that automatic way of being with what we're having, and give ourselves an opportunity to choose how we're going to be with the moment, we have to settle our nervous system. Because when we live out of the stresses, out of the hormones of stress, then we're being run by cortisol and adrenaline, and our sympathetic nervous system is what is fired, is what is turned on. And what we know now in brain science about our nervous systems is that when our sympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system of reaction, of danger, of dealing with an outer threat, what happens is that nervous system shuts down saliva, digestion, and our immune function. And if we're living predominantly in the context of our autopilot, can we not now understand the negative health effects of living constantly under the belief that something out there is a threat unto us? And so it's not until we shift out of the autopilot into the pilot, let's say, in other words, us now taking charge of how we're going to be with what we're having, do we turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. Think of a parachute slowing things down. And then when we shift out of the autopilot into the pilot, that means now we're having to decide how we're going to be with the moment instead of our reactive patterns determining how we're going to respond and react. And so notice in this dynamic, when the pilot is activated, now we turn on the various elements that have to do with our vital health and well-being functions, such as the production of saliva, digestion turns on, immune function reestablishes itself. It is said that you need 8 hours of sleep to reboot the parasympathetic nervous system. So how many of us adequately shift back into a sense of autonomy, knowing that we are the avenue through which God expresses, as opposed to life is just happening to us? And therefore autopilot serves us because we have defense mechanisms and coping strategies that help us push away what looks and feels bad and hold on to what looks and feels good. And so these unconscious behaviors that moves us into pushing away and separating or holding on to what we want are things that we have to overcome, because they're driven aspects of our conditioned self as opposed to how we would choose to be if we had a mind to. How would you choose to be with what you're having if you had a mind to? And think about all the things that we become without making a choice. It's chosen for us by virtue of our reactive pattern. And so when we're in this dynamic of wanting to restabilize our nervous system, we have to actually do a technique that reactivates the parasympathetic nervous system, and especially the vagus nerve, which is a part of that network that helps our brain then look at our experience in the context of a greater dimension of life. In other words, when our whole brain is capable of being present to our life experience, and when we're coming from it out of the context of our oneness with God, knowing our own worth, then we turn on all of the healthy neurological functions that create a great sense of coherence and entrainment within our mind-body process. And then now we have access to capacities that are not tethered to our reactive self. So let's understand what we mean by the autopilot more specifically. There are two aspects of that System 1 autopilot that lives within our mind-body process. One aspect of that is our reactive nature. In other words, when we're in a triggering moment, all of a sudden we become a part of a cascade that we have no control over. In a triggering moment, there's a perceived threat. The amygdala sounds the alarm, and that wakes up the brainstem. The thalamus sends up a wake-up signal to the brainstem, and then the brainstem sends neuroepinephrine throughout the brain, and then the sympathetic nervous system signals the organs and muscles to fight or flee. The hypothalamus prompts the pituitary, and then the pituitary prompts the adrenals to release stress hormones, and then within 2 seconds, our emotional body is hijacked. We have no control over that because that lives in our automatic pilot. The only recourse that we have is to shift out of the autopilot into knowing what's happening. Oh, what's happening is I'm being triggered. It's touching a part of me that's living in the disconnect. That's why I have to push away or I have to be safe. But when I recognize that that's what's going on, I can be with the experience because I know it's not against me. My reaction is a conditioned response. I don't have to live out of that conditioned way of being. And so what we know about brain science is that we can actually interrupt this cascade if in the moment of perceiving a trigger that we shift into heart-centered coherence. And interestingly enough, the very practice that Jane has led us to facilitate us actually reboots the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system if we do that routinely and with intention. So in other words, it's okay that you don't get 8 hours of sleep, but you have to at least spend 20 minutes a day in this process of reactivating your vagus nerve, rebooting your parasympathetic nervous system, because it's the only way you get out of the autopilot. And as we understand the science, the brain science, and what's at stake with respect to how we have to actually work the principles in order to transform our life, now we can understand why prayer and meditation, spiritual practice is so integral to our journey, is because it takes us out of the autopilot. And it helps us to understand what we're actually dealing with. So this is the primary aspect of system one in our autopilot, is the reactive aspect. The second aspect of the autopilot is running things habitually. In other words, the autopilot is just our habits running us. And when we're living out of our unconscious circuitry, then whatever is in our circuits defines us. So if we have a sense of not enough, if we have a sense of that we don't matter, then those beliefs are going to play out in our life because the unconscious program is churning out that energy. And so we have to override that. We have to do something that takes us out of the autopilot if we're to really then use our spiritual practice to really make a difference. So here's where I'm going with this, and that is that as we think about our purpose, transforming our life, and as our lives are transformed, we're called to make a greater difference in our world. We cannot be about that work if we're in the unconscious autopilot. There's no self-awareness in that dimension of ourself. And until we wake up, until we remind ourselves that, oh, I'm in the autopilot now, and I know I'm in the autopilot is when I feel like life's against me, or I'm triggered, or I'm pushing something away, or I'm having to have things be a certain way, or when I need to be right, or when I have somebody the matter with me. These are all the ways in which we're living in the autopilot and just living a program. And so our process of waking up is about reconditioning the autopilot. In other words, the pilot sets the autopilot, determines the direction and the waypoints and the process by which that journey is made. And so we still have the circuits that we have to honor and value. The reactive part of us keeps us safe, and our habits of being keeps us in some kind of flow. But as we illumine our habits of being, as we give those reactive parts of ourselves some context, some wisdom, some understanding, then we don't have to suffer the unintended consequence of our unconscious self. So loving kindness is a powerful meditation, and this is slightly different than the heart lock-in. We start with the heart lock-in to kind of open up this energy center, But then loving kindness helps us transcend our own self, our own individual self, and so that we connect up with a dimension of being that is all inclusive. And that just so happens shuts off the autopilot, and then we open our awareness in this dimension of ourself where we recognize that we have worth, we have value, we can make a difference, we have power. But that's something that we have to activate, and if we aren't in the routine of activating that, then we are living by those programs instead. So as we look at spiritual practice and its capacity to transform our lives, then all transformation ultimately results in greater alignment with the reality of God. Would you not say that that's true? That any transformation ultimately we'll arise or align with this awareness that is just God going on. And to the degree that we have exceptions to that principle means that some aspect of our conditioning is living in the autopilot. And we have to do the work to expunge that. And the only way that we can expunge that is retraining those circuits, reconditioning those circuits to the pilot's intentionality. And as a pilot, your job is to create a future that serves the greater good and to move in that direction. So Amber has mentioned the Q process training, and this is something that is integral to our capacity to override the autopilot in our life, to really learn how our own self system runs us when we're not the pilot. And it gives us a handle, a mechanism, a process by which we can really overcome our self-imposed limiting beliefs. So I'm going to end by pointing us to next week when we're talking about principle number 5, which is all about being the change. And that it's insufficient to simply know these principles. It's insufficient just to have all of these great ideas. We have to actually do something in the outer in order for the programming to be overwritten. And so part of being able to do something that actually moves us towards what we're trying to create for ourselves means that we have to generate a relationship with the dimension of ourself that is our higher self, our intuitive nature. And that way of developing that is always through our heart. So I'm going to share a video in just a moment, and it comes from a class that Jane and I teach through Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute, The Eye of the Storm. And we have our students go through an experience that's similar to the Q process. They are invited to go through a 21-day process where they go into their heart and they ask their heart to reveal a moment when they showed up, failed to be with whatever is happening out of a sense of presence and purpose. And if given the opportunity, what authentic action would I be invited to take by virtue of consulting my heart? And to take that action and then to bear witness as to what took place, what unfolded because of it. And so commonly our students have great resistance to actually doing this practice, but as they're able to overcome that resistance and able to actually implement an imperative that arises from their heart, it's fascinating what can emerge. And so this is a short video, and I think that it'll be self-explanatory as to why this is really important.
The story that I had, and
that's his cat.
And I've actually had a bunch of these, and this is actually, I didn't say this in the opening statement, but one of the things about staying in the storm is just all the cool little things that happen when you start healing, and it's, oh my gosh. Anyway, so we were at a Rockies game, and we were in the middle of the row, and on one side there was a partition, so you could only get out of the row on one side. And so we had gotten up a few times to do various things, to walk around, get some food, drink, whatever. And the guy at the end of the row, kind of an older gentleman, maybe in his 60s, finally, like maybe on the third time we got out, said, "Next time you'll have to crawl over me if you want to pass again." I couldn't tell if he was serious or joking or what, but I just kind of, I just kind of kept my cool and just, walked up the stairs. And so I started, thinking about, and of course the ego was more than happy to offer a lot of unpeaceful thoughts. So I just stopped and, we had gone up to get some ice cream. It was pretty hot that day. And so while I was in line, I said, what's going on here? What's the storm? What did I bring here? And the thought that I had that came in was about control and connection issues. And so I kind of went through that a little bit, and then I said, well, what do I recommend? Because I got to walk by this guy again. So what do you recommend? Because by this time I was really heart-centered, really quiet and calm. And so the thought that came in was buy him a bottle of water. And I thought, oh, well, yeah, I don't, shouldn't have to bribe them. I paid for the seat, and of course there goes the ego again. And so I just said, okay, all right, I'm going to buy him a bottle of water. And then about that time too, I got a download kind of this guy. It was kind of the weirdest thing. I kind of got a little backstory on this guy, and I couldn't tell if I was making it up or if it was actually coming in, but just about his loneliness issues and connection issues and some other stuff. And I knew I had connection issues too, so this gift was just kind of about love. It wasn't a bribe. And so I ended up getting the bottle of water. So we came back to the seats, and and I walked up to him, and he kind of looks up, kind of weary and grumpy. And so I handed him the bottle of water, and I said, here's a peace offering, brother. And man, the whole scene just changed. I mean, this guy, like I said, he looked kind of a little older and kind of a little weary, but man, he jumped up like a little teenager, and he was all smiling, and he was all happy, and he started talking like 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I couldn't really tell a lot of what he was saying, but just in that moment, there was just such love. There was just such connection. It could have easily have gone the other way. And so I felt it, he felt it, and then we ended up walking back to our seats, but it just felt so good, and again, just kind of looking at the control issues, I'm always trying to control with my mind and use the intellect, and instead I really just kind of tapped into the heart that day, and it really showed me kind of a different way of living, a different way of experiencing and just being in that connection. It was just beautiful.
Yeah. That's a great story. So the idea is that we'll always be amazed at what our heart inspires us to live into, and these are stories that Jane and I hear time and time again, and just by people just practicing this very simple technique of becoming heart-centered. I just want to conclude by adding a little bit more information to the specific technique to reboot your vagus nerve and restart your parasympathetic nervous system. And so these instructions are aligned with the latest brain research. So the first thing to do is to sit in a comfortable position, make sure your spine is straight and your neck is not twisted, but your neck is straight, as if you're pulling up on the top of your head and pulling down on your spinal cord, so you're straight. There you go. And then you establish a 6-3-6-3 breathing rhythm. So you breathe in for 6 counts, hold for 3, exhale for 6, and pause for 3 before taking that again. And doing that for 3 cycles, and then allowing your breath just to normalize. And then to make sure you expand your lower abdomen, because as you exhale and as you push down, that exhalation is what triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. And when you're opening your rib cage and contracting it, that massages the vagus nerve. And so those activities are also part of it. And so begin with yourself and continuing with family members, friends, acquaintances, adversaries, and all sentient beings. Just as Jane led us in, say, may I be happy, may I be free of suffering, may I find peace and comfort, may I be healthy and prosperous. And then you continue with your family, acquaintances, adversaries, such and such. And so if you practice this, and it only take you a few minutes to practice this, maybe 10 minutes, and then reflect upon how you feel afterwards, and get a little sense of reward from recognizing that you have just stepped out of your autopilot and fully activated your capacity to be present to the actual moment that you're having. And then as you find yourself during the day either dipping more into stress or into any kind of reactive pattern, repeat this exercise. And you can recondition and train your brain to be able to very quickly move out of being overwhelmed with the energy of those hormones and cellular nervous system very fast. So thank you so much for your attention. Next Sunday, be the change. God bless you all.
I especially appreciated that video. I wished I would have had an unconscious drive into church today. I had a very eventful one with a driver that really had me practicing a lot of patience, so it was good. Anyway, unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths to God. Unity stands for we know that there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are welcome here. We would especially like to welcome anyone who is here for the first time. If this is your first time visiting with us and you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers have a gift packet for you. Anyone? Nobody wants the free latte, huh? Okay. So we would also like to welcome our online viewers. Hello, online viewers. Thank you for joining us this morning. Now it is time to welcome and greet each other with a handshake, a high five, or whatever suits you. We begin with our welcome song.
The Academy song.
We are gathering What note was that? Good morning, everybody. My name is Jim Sledge. I have the privilege of being the treasurer on your board of trustees, and this is a time of our community giving. And as we heard through the Amber Alert this morning, this is a very special place, and we're doing some very unique things that requires each of us to maybe step out a little bit more than we have done in the past. And so that really fits with the mission-centric sort of thing that we're trying to create. And part of that, of course, is the financial part of what we're trying to create. So if you would take that sort of gratitude for what we're doing here into your hearts as we share our prosperity blessing. Together, I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And so it is. One other thing, since Sean and Tony are not here this morning, choir begins this Thursday. So welcome back to all the choir members who have been there for a long time. But if you've ever thought of maybe that would be something fun for me to do, please come join us. We have a lot of fun. We create a lot of good music, and we would welcome anybody who wants to join us. So consider that. Oh, 7 o'clock on Thursday. Thank you.
Birthday Sunday will commence, don't worry. Before I start, I want to take a brief moment to brag about my dear friend here. She traveled all the way from Puyallup just to play music here with me. Thank you. So her gracing me with her presence is a big honor. Chris and I went to high school and for a brief time college together, but we've really known each other since we were second grade pretty much. So I'm honored to have her play here with me, and she already has an invitation from Grandma to come back and play more. So when that happens, hopefully we can come back and do more for all of you. So here we go. There is a shadow in the hallway, trying to frighten you. Don't let the darkness surround you. You can make it through. Don't you give up on the kingdom. Think it's crashing in. No, it ain't worth all the worry. They'll still let you in. Someday soon these worries roll on. Someday soon enough. Sometimes the weight of decisions try to bury you. Don't let the shame tell you something that you know ain't true. Just 'cause you feel like a stranger, that don't mean you are. God, I could use a reminder what forgiveness is for.
So our chaplains today are like Tim Ryburn and Kathy Fisher, and we've got Charles Lightwalker in the back of the room holding the service in prayer, which one of our chaplains does every Sunday. So if you have anything that is heavy on your heart or that you would like to celebrate, you can pray with one of our chaplains and they will hold it in prayer with you. They will be at the front of the sanctuary right after the service. Thank you for your service today. You can also fill in a prayer request found in the seat pocket in front of you and put it in one of our prayer boxes. There's one in the atrium and one at the back of the church. Our prayer team will pray with you for 7 days, and then the prayer will be sent on to Silent Unity to be prayed over for 30 days. If you know of anyone who is in the hospital and has requested a visit from one of our chaplains, please fill in the visitation request form in the seat back pocket and place it in the prayer box. So it is time to welcome in our children. I don't hear anyone yet. Ah, there we go.
Go ahead, yeah. All right.
For all of our young people here at Unity Spiritual Center, let's take a moment to bless our children, youth, and those in service to our youth ministry. I think we'll do Birthday Sunday after that. Be the love you are, sing the song you hear, share our joy of life with people far and near. And for ourselves, be the love we are, sing the song we hear, share our joy of life with people far and near. So this Sunday is Birthday Sunday. So if you have a birthday in the month of September, please stand while we sing the birthday song. Invite the children to find a parent or a guardian. Anyone that you like. Okay, please, well, please stand as you are able and join together for our closing prayer, followed by the peace song. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.
So this week, pay attention to your autopilot and switch it off.